A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome everyone to another important session of CFP. So before we get started, let me go ahead and introduce to you what is CFP. CFP stands for Connect for Purpose. And at CFP, our goal is to connect the Muslim Ummah's talent to impactful projects which are going to better the humanity. So today we have with us an important project, which is TOES. Rather, I would say it's a complete education system. And TOES is led by Brother Kaisar Abbas, and Sister Faiza Khanum is the educational consultant of this very important project, which comes under the umbrella of Connect for Purpose. Today we have this session to empower the educators, parents, and anyone who want to mentor the youth and prepare the youth and make them ready for the future challenges ahead. And the topic for today is conceptual teaching for real world transfer. Let me introduce our speaker, Ms. Faiza Khanum. Ms. Faiza Khanum is an educational consultant, as I've mentioned. She's been volunteering her time in this important project of TOES. She is an IB certified educator as well as a CPD certified trainer. Today, her session will focus on how we can transform the way the students think, learn, and apply knowledge. So welcome everyone, and let me hand over to Sister Faiza Khanum for this very, very important session, which is inshallah going to benefit all who are present here and the Ummah. Welcome, Sister Faiza.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Farhana. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And welcome for the conceptual learning session. Okay, I'm really glad that you all took out time and we are here connected today. I really appreciate your presence. Before we begin, I want to intentionally slow us down because I want to start with a question. And the question is there on the screen. When the school bell rings for the last time, what actually stays? I don't mean what was covered or what showed up on the test. I mean what's still there when the structure disappears, when there is no worksheet, no lesson plan, no one saying, this is what you need to do next. Now, think back of your own schooling experience. Think about the volume of information you were expected to memorize, the definitions, formulas, dates, and all the facts. Now ask yourself honestly, how much of that information do you still actively use today? Because eventually school ends, but life doesn't come with instructions. And in that moment, what does a learner actually carry with them? Is it a list of facts, or is it a way of thinking, a way of noticing, a way of deciding what to do when the answer is not obvious? That difference between knowing something in the school and using it in life, that's the space we are going to spend our time in today. So before we start, I would like to share a little bit about my journey with you. I actually began my professional life as a pharmacist. I've always valued the care and precision of the field. But since last 15 years, I've been into education because I realized that while medicine is essential for our health, education is what builds the foundation for a child's entire life. Since then, I've been lucky enough to wear many hats inside the school system. I started in the classroom as a teacher and then led to becoming a mentor for other teachers and a workshop facilitator. Over the time, that grew into designing curricula and working in the consultation. But honestly, some of the most rewarding moments come from the volunteering for the educational projects I do in the community. It's where I feel firsthand how much of an impact a good education can have. All of these roles have led me to one simple mission: building thinking learners and empowering the educators who lead them. And I truly believe that to raise a grounded child, we have to move beyond just getting through the textbook and focus on building deep concepts. So, as we think about what actually stays with a learner, I want to bring us to a really important idea, something I call the knowledge trap. For decades, education has relied heavily on rote learning. We assume that if students knew enough information, understanding would automatically follow. But research and experience tell us otherwise. You see, facts today are instantly available. You don't need to memorize them anymore. You can just look them up. And knowledge that is isolated, facts, formulas, dates, definitions, all of them, if it isn't connected to thinking, it fades. It doesn't stick. So the real problem isn't that students forget facts, it's that they were never given a reason to remember them. So the question we must ask ourselves, are we filling minds with facts or shaping minds that can solve real problems? Because knowing what is no longer enough. It's not just about remembering information. It's about knowing how to use it, how to notice, and how to act when you don't know about the situation. That is the space we must occupy as educators and mentors. Because what we leave behind is far more than facts. It's the way of thinking that lasts a lifetime. Before we dive in, I want to clarify who this session is for. Whether you are an educator looking to refine your craft, and an academic leader, or a parent looking for better support at home, all of you are the primary architects of a child's mind. So today, we are the partners in this mission.
Excuse me,
Over
Ms.
the
Faiza,
next 40 to 45 minutes, yes?
your DP is constantly here on the screen. So some part of the presentation is not visible. Can you see that? At the
Okay,
bottom left side.
I'll just check. Could you please pause the recording? So over the next 40 to 45 minutes, we aren't just going to talk about adding another strategy to your toolkit. It's something a little deeper. It's about shifting the lens through which we look at learning. We're going to explore how to move beyond teaching to the test, how to design learning that actually works, and how to prepare our children for challenges that don't even exist yet. In short, this session is about moving from just delivering information to designing understanding that lasts. Now let's talk about the core takeaways. There are three anchors I want to keep in mind throughout our time together. First, conceptual clarity. So for the educator, it's about the pedagogy. For parents, it's about how we explain the world to our children. It's about organizing facts into big ideas so that learning actually makes sense. Second is the active inquiry. This is the shift from giving answers to asking the right questions. We want our learners and our children to be active participants in making meaning, not just passive receivers. And third, real world transfer. This is the ultimate goal. Learning only matters if it shows up outside the classroom or outside the home, if they can really use in real life. When these three anchors work together, learning becomes durable, flexible, and deeply relevant. Now let's think about a bigger shift in how we approach teaching and learning. Traditionally, curriculum planning starts with the question, what should learners know? On the other hand, conceptual teaching begins with a more powerful question, what should students understand? But there's a second part to that question. It's not just about what they understand. It's about what should they be able to do with that understanding. This is where we talk about competencies. This shift is supported by decades of research. Lynn Erickson explains that while factual knowledge answers what, conceptual understanding answers why and how. Research summarized in How People Learn confirms that transfer, the ability to apply learning to new situations, only happen when learners grasp underlying concepts and they develop the competencies to use them. When we teach for understanding and competency, we are no longer racing to cover content. We are intentionally uncovering meaning. So as we move forward today, I want us to keep this shift in mind, that we are moving from covering content to uncovering meaning and building competencies. Now, I want to be very clear. To really teach conceptually, we first have to understand the structure of knowledge. Because when we teach this way, we aren't just giving them information. We are building the path that helps them reach the stage where they can use their understanding in real life. Think of it this way. Facts are necessary, but they are simply not enough on their own. So if you look at this level of the pyramid, you can see it's the lowest level where the facts are placed. Topics might organize those facts, but organization alone doesn't guarantee that a child can actually use what they know. I like to say that facts are like those loose bricks. Without a blueprint, they can never truly become a home. This is where the magic happens, where you can see concepts. This is where we change how our learners see the world. To turn those bricks into a structure, we use two types of lenses, macro concepts and the micro concepts. On one side, we have micro concepts. These are the subject lenses. This is where we go deep, like mastering fractions in math or food chain in science. So these give our learners that academic depth they need. But on the other hand, we have macro concepts, as you can see here. These are our universal lenses, the big, powerful ideas like systems, change, responsibility, perspective. Here is why this is so life-changing for teaching and for the children. When we use these big lenses, we provide the bread that connects everything. Think about it. We aren't just teaching a math lesson. We are using system lens to show them how a fraction works. And then they can take that same lens to science. And suddenly, they understand why an ecosystem is failing. So this leads us to the very peak. When these concepts connect, they form generalization. Those big timeless truths that explain how the world works. And the real hook is transfer. That ability to use the learning that was built throughout this process in the real life. So it does not happen through memorized facts. Honestly, by understanding this structure, we can stop filling their minds and start giving children a mental toolbox to solve the real world problems. And that is exactly what we are going to explore next. But before that, I would like to share a quick resource for those interested in the foundational theory. This is especially for educators. If you'd like to explore the specific definitions of the concept-based model in more detail, I've included this QR code of my previous session, and it's like a great deep dive if you really want to know about the what and why behind this framework. And I hope this link will be shared with you in the chat for your convenience. So feel free to save that for later. And let's move forward into how we actually put these ideas into action. Now let's take a moment to look at how this actually works within the mind. So you can see on the slide, it's divided into internal, what's happening inside our mind, and then external, what's happening once we reach to this stage where we can apply our knowledge and our understanding. You see, the brain doesn't store learning as separate floating pieces of information. It's much more sophisticated than that. It organizes understanding into what we call schema. It's written here. These are mental frameworks or maps that help us make sense of new situations. If you look at the left side of the slide, you'll see that facts on their own tend to remain isolated. They are like the loose bricks, as I told earlier. Concepts are what connect those facts into meaningful, durable patterns. And the beauty of it is that when a learner builds a strong schema, they don't just remember more, their understanding finally has a structure. I like to think of that structure as a lens. It's what allows their learning to travel with them wherever they go, far beyond the four walls of the classroom. But the real question is, what does this leap, this transfer actually look like in the child's life? Well, it's that aha moment when a learner takes a meaningful idea and uses it to navigate the real world. For instance, we might spend time exploring on the concept of system in the science or math lesson. True transfer is when the same child noticed an issue in their own community. Maybe it's a traffic flow, maybe it's a waste management, or even playground safety. And they begin to think, how does this system work? What part isn't working here? And what could be improved? As Bradsford and his colleague highlights in How People Learn, this ability depends entirely on building that strong conceptual foundation, not memorization. And honestly, that's really the goal of everything we've been talking about today. Okay. So you might be wondering, how does a learner actually move from just knowing fact to being able to use it in the real world? Well, you see, when we teach conceptually, we are guiding them through three distinct levels of understanding: the surface learning, deep learning, and finally the transfer. We begin at the surface level. Think of it as the foundation. This is where the learners build their initial exposure. They are becoming familiar with the terms, developing the language of the subject. But please make no mistake, this level is absolutely essential, but it's only the starting point where most of the education systems stop. As learning really begins to take roots, we move to the deeper understanding or the deeper learning phase. This is where learners begin to connect those ideas. They start noticing patterns and the relationships. And this is where those conceptual lenses we talked about earlier really come into play. So understanding isn't just a list anymore, it's actually taking shape here. But again, the real goal, the peak of the journey, is where learning reaches its true purpose is transfer. I love how educationist Julie and her colleague reminded us that learning isn't actually complete until it can be transferred. You see that moment when learning travels beyond the classroom or the kitchen table? That's mastery. That's the outcome we are designing for today. So if that's our goal, How do we actually get there? Most of us were taught deductively. You know, the way where the teacher gave us a rule first, and then we just did the worksheet. But to teach for transfer, we have to flip that. We use what's called the inductive approach. I like to think of it as discovery first, labels later. Think about it. The last time you truly understood something, how did it happen? Most of the time, it wasn't because someone gave you a definition first. Rather, it was because you explored, you noticed patterns, and you made sense of it yourself. So, in inductive approach, we begin with provocation. What is a provocation? This might be a story, a specific scenario, or even a hands-on case study. So instead of starting with a definition, for example, a definition of interdependence, we start with examples like the relationship between a pea and a flower. We give our learners the experience first. We don't start with the formula, rather we start with the world. As they engage, patterns begin to emerge. Connections are noticed, relationships appear, and here is the key. Not because we told them, they actively think, their thinking drives towards the understanding. The more they notice for themselves, the more durable their learning becomes. Only after this, relate the concept. This is the moment we finally introduce the formal language, the definitions and the labels, because the understanding has already formed. Those labels now have a place to land. They become meaningful, memorable, and ultimately transferable. This is why the inductive approach works, because meaning isn't delivered, it's constructed by the learners. And when our children, they develop that kind of ownership in their learning, it sticks. They don't just remember it, they can apply to solve problems they haven't seen before. That's the real shift. So, if we want to move from theory to action, we need a way to see what is actually happening in the mind. You see, one of the greatest ways to make learners' thinking and their conceptual understanding truly visible is to use tools called thinking routines. Now, these aren't just clever ideas. These routines were carefully crafted after years of research by Harvard Project Zero. Think of them as simple scaffolds that help our children process information and uncover those big patterns we've been talking about. Now, it's important to know that these are actually there are dozens of these routines designed for different stages of learning. For example, you might use see, think, wonder to spark the curiosity at the surface level, or you might use connect, extend, challenge to drive deep thinking and connection. So because there's so much to explore, I will actually be conducting a dedicated session, our very next one, focused entirely on how to use these specific routines in your daily teaching. So please stay connected after today's session, and we can continue this journey of learning together. Okay, let's see conceptual teaching in action inside the classroom. Now, this is one of the lessons I conducted in my classroom. And I want to really show you how the real power of this shift works. Let's look at what happens when we use inductive approach and we combine a thinking routine. This is a lesson in which I used the Greek Kapok tree story. It was a grade 5 classroom, and we didn't start by giving the answers. We started at the very base of the structure of knowledge with active inquiry. As you can see, look at the intensity in this photo. The student is not just reading. Rather, the student is like a detective. She is hunting for the factual evidence. But then we turn the engine. We use the 4C's thinking routine: connection, challenge, concept, and change to bridge those facts directly into our focused concept that was interdependence. There were questions, as you can see. The questions were conceptually crafted to make them think and make connections with their real life while answering for the 4C's. And I could literally feel the energy in the room. It shifted. As they begin system engineering, here in this picture, you can see mapping those invisible threads on the tree diagram, the students had the massive aha moment. They weren't just looking at animals anymore. They were seeing the connections. They realized right there in real time that if you put one thread, if you just pull one thread, the whole forest feels it. They weren't just learning, they were uncovering the hidden laws of nature. So you can see the connections that they made about all the characters they studied about in the story. Now, here we reach the peak. This is the moment that still gives me chills. This is where the learning became durable, the kind of learning that stays with the child for life. We move from those raw facts to the generalization. You can see the reflection of one of my students on this Padlet slide. She used perspective taking. She stepped into the very soul of the jaguar, one of the characters in the book, and she wrote that doing something without permission could change someone's life. So think about that. In that moment, she wasn't just a student finishing a task. She was a thinker. She was a philosopher. Finally, look at our big ideas board. Here. When the learners learn everything, they synthesize everything they had learned into one truth. All living creatures, they depend on each other, and one action can cause a ripple effect. So the walls of classrooms just disappeared. They reached the global transfer. They realized that interdependence isn't just a word, rather it's a responsibility. They walked into the room as the reader of the story, but they walked out as the authors of meaning. So they didn't just learn a concept, they engineered a worldview. And that is the success story of concept-based inquiry. What you just witnessed wasn't a one-time magic trick. It was a blueprint. Whether we are teaching math, history, science, or any subject, the process remains the same. Now you might be wondering, why does this matter beyond the grade level? It matters because interdependence doesn't stay in rainforest. Once a child's brain is wired to see the invisible threads, they start seeing them everywhere. They see how their words affect the system of their friendship on the playground. They see how their choices affect the system of our environment. And this is the global transfer. So we aren't just teaching them to pass a test on trees. We are actually preparing them using the conceptual lens to solve the problems of the future. So when these children grow up to be the leaders, they won't just see isolated problems. They will see connected systems. They will lead with responsibility because they understand deep in their bones that we are all depending on someone. Now, here I want to speak directly to the parents joining us from home. Sometimes we feel that real learning only happens in a classroom with a textbook. But the truth is, your home is the most powerful classroom your child will ever have. Think about a simple task like sorting the trash. On the surface, it looks like a boring chore. But when you do it together, you start going deeper. You talk about how things break down, how nature changes things, and why we don't just throw things right away. And at that stage, you are building meaning. And then you hit the transfer. This is the moment your child realizes, wait, what I do in this kitchen matters to the birds, trees, and the ocean. So, our big idea is simple but life changing. The small choices we make in our homes shape the big health of our world. And that's connecting us to responsibility. So, you aren't teaching them to be clean, you're teaching them responsibility. You're showing them that they are connected to everything. You're not just raising a child, you're raising a guardian of the future. Let's take a moment to see a conceptual understanding and connect it with prayers, namaz. At the center of this practice is a simple question that Quran itself encourages us to ask. Do they not reflect? Many children, they know the movements, they know the words and the sequence. They can recite the prayer perfectly, but do they really understand why they are doing it? Or what it means for their heart, their mind, and their connection with Allah? This is where conceptual understanding comes in. Around namaz, we can think in three ways. Tafakkur, thinking deeply about the meaning of each action. Tadabbur, reflecting carefully on the words, movements, and their significance. And muhasba, examining intentions and connecting what they do with why they do it. So when children link their actions with these thinking processes, prayers stop being just a routine or a task to do. It becomes a conscious, meaningful practice. Their niya is intentional, their focus is deliberate, their connection strengthens. And this is why we say that conceptual learning turns routine actions into deep understanding, intentional practice, and meaningful Muslim identity. Through this simple example of namaz, we can already see the power of conceptual learning. It prepares children to connect actions with meaning and practice with identity. Later, we'll go even deeper in how this shapes Muslim identity, intentions, and leadership. But for now, this gives us a glimpse of what's possible when learning becomes conceptual, reflective, and purposeful. I want to give you something you can use today, not in the classroom, but at the dinner table or while you're out on a walk. As homeschooling parents, we often feel the pressure to have all the answers. But I want to let you know you don't need the answers. You just need the right questions. Think of these 4 questions as your magic toolkit. When you're reading a bedtime story, or even when a disagreement happens between the siblings, you can use one of these. Like, you can ask, where else have we seen this? By this, you're helping them to build a map of the world. When you ask, what if things were different? You're training them to be a problem solver. So you see, you aren't just schooling them, you are engineering their minds to see those invisible threats. You're moving them from being passive observers to becoming active thinkers who understand the big picture. And this is how you turn a simple conversation into a lifelong lesson. Here is something important. Concept-based learning is not just in books, and it's not theoretical. It's happening right now around the world, especially in the schools that have shifted their teaching methods from rote memorization to learning that focuses on understanding and applying ideas. Let's start with IB. Today, there are more than 5,600 schools in over 160 countries that follow IB framework. In these schools, conceptual understanding is at the center. It's not about covering content first. Instead, students explore big ideas and understand the relationships between them. They move from transdisciplinary to interdisciplinary as the stages grows. Now, if we look at Finland, every public school follows a national curriculum that organizes learning around real-world phenomena and big ideas, not just separate subjects. Students investigate situations, notice patterns, and only then name the concepts. So learning again starts with discovery, not memorization. Another example, Singapore. Especially in math and science, their national curriculum is outstanding. Students explore relationships, models, and ideas before learning formulas and procedures. In math, they use CPA method, that is the concrete, pictorial, abstract approach. In science, the students focus on inquiry, reasoning, and evidence. This helps them truly understand concepts and apply them in different situations. Finally, if we see this OECD frame, the PISA frame, this is used by over 90 countries. And again, students here aren't assessed on what they remember. They are assessed on whether they can apply the concepts in different situations or not. And this is the key shift, moving from rote learning to understanding that transfers. So when we talk about the concept-based learning, we are not talking about a trend or a theory. We are talking about a global shift that is happening in education. From simply delivering the information to helping students truly build understanding. Up till now, we have seen that concept-based learning is not a theory on paper. It's been used on a global scale. But the real question is this: what does this actually produce in real life? So let me just share a few success stories out of many that shows what happens when students learn conceptually. So let's begin with an example from IB. On the left side, as you can see, a group of IB primary year students from South Korea, they identified a global problem that was limited access to clean water in South Sudan. Notice something important here. They were not studying a chapter or a lesson about South Sudan. They were not memorizing facts for an exam. They were working through big concepts: responsibility, sustainability, and systems. So through inquiry, research, and action, they designed solutions, they raised awareness, and they supported real communities. This is conceptual learning in action, a real transfer. On the other hand, you can see example from one of a well-known school from Singapore that is called UWC SEA. It's a group of middle and high school students who participated in global innovation challenge called the 3IG Hack. The challenge that they work on was climate change. But again, this was not about recalling climate facts. They applied system thinking. They analyzed how environmental systems, human behavior, and technology interacts. And using those concepts, they designed solutions so strong that they won the global challenge. What's powerful is not the award here. It's the thinking. These students, they learned concepts deeply so they could transfer it across the subjects, across the context into unfamiliar problem. Again, this is the true outcome of the conceptual learning. It doesn't just improve academic performance, it builds thinkers who can respond to the world. And this is why we don't ask only, did student finish the syllabus? We ask something much deeper. Can they use what they have learned when the situation changes? At this point, I want to share the heart of our mission. At TOES, we aren't just teaching, we are intentionally building. We are building a concept-based ecosystem that is deliberately rooted in Quran and Sunnah. We are not teaching subjects in isolation. We use Islamic macro concepts like mizan, amana, as the soil in which the learners grow, because we know that the soil determines how deep the roots can go. So our ultimate goal is to guide learners from simply observing the creation to consciously connecting with the creator. When we see these interdependence of a forest, they aren't just seeing signs. They are seeing the ayats, the signs of Allah. And in this way, knowledge doesn't just sit alone, rather, it is connected with faith. It becomes stronger. We have 4 phases: spark, track, epics, and rise. Right now, we have pilot phases of the first 3, spark, track, and epics. And I'm so incredibly glad to be a part of TOES because we refuse to compromise. We hold the academic excellence and the spiritual depth with equal seriousness. We aren't chasing any trends. We are cultivating foundations. And by building this way, we will be raising faith-grounded global thinkers who can lead with integrity and remain anchored on the straight path wherever life takes them. To bring all of these ideas together and show us how this approach truly shapes the soul of a believer, I'm deeply honored to invite someone who lives and breathes this mission every day. I would like to welcome the founder of TOES, Mr. Kasser Abbas, and he's going to speak with us about the profound connection between this way of learning and our faith, especially how conceptual learning is not just an academic choice, but a powerful way to strengthen our Muslim identity. Mr. Kasser, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Faiza. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are learning, enjoying the session. So you have been going through the conceptual learning, and you have seen few school systems, right? The IB, Singapore, also the Sweden one, which is quite successful, and few others maybe that you are experiencing with your kids. So there's a question that why TOES is there if like so successful systems are already there. So why there's a need to have TOES, the Organic Edu-care System, in place? So that's a big question for me because anything we as a Muslims should do must be purposeful and aligned with our human excellence, you know. So one thing which I believe is missing in all the school systems throughout the world, that is not only the self-actualization of a human, but self-actualization itself has its excellence, which must be achieved within this lifetime, you know. Why? Because you know that Hazrat Muhammad SAW was called, invited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see him, to meet him. And that's the reason, that's the excellence of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we, the humans, the followers of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, also need to reach the excellence within this lifetime, So if you see all the school system, they are really going good. Like they are teaching you inquiry, curiosity, concepts, and like kids are really enjoying it. But the point is, unless you reach the excellence or you recognize the point of excellence, you can achieve that excellence, So we believe at TOES, we believe that recognizing the true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the excellence of human and the humanity. No other school system till now, as per our research, understanding, we explored few around the globe, but we could not see any which is, uh, connecting a child with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator actually. It's not only about the Muslims, but every creature has its creator. So human has its creator. So we have this right that we get connection, get in contact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the creator at least, even if you don't give him the name, So at TOES, that's what we believe, that concept-based learning is there. People are teaching it, but they are missing the link, the final link, that is connection between the creature and the creator. And the way how to connect yourself with the creator is given by Sunnah. The words of creator come from Quran, and the way how I can connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is given by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the rules, the terms and conditions, the policies, the principles are right there. And how I can achieve them, how I can apply them, how can I, feel them, how should I respond to them, this all is given by Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam through Sunnah. So that's very important, Like you can say, for example, if I give you an example, this is the kind of analogy I'm going to draw. It is not something exact you have to uh, get from it. For example, a person is having a dog, So dog is loyal to the owner. So what is the excellence a dog can deliver to the owner? You know, the dog, the excellence that comes from dog for the owner is that what owner really feel that that's what he has done, or he has achieved the excellence of its loyalty. When the dog sacrifices itself for saving the human, the owner, So you say, oh, he sacrificed itself for the sake of honor, So that's what we see, that an animal got the excellence when he really uh, put his all efforts to achieve that excellence. Similarly, the human is here, and he is also have a point of excellence, I see all around the world people are teaching so many good things, but they are not connecting the excellence with the last point. And when you could not, like the systems going in the world throughout, capitalism, uh, in China, something else is going on. In South Korea, something else is going on. So we are focusing on how we can make the products, break the products, get something out of the products. But where is the human excellence? So I don't say that these systems just mentioned by Ms. Faiz are wrong, actually. And the theories given by the educationists of Western world, those are wrong. But the point is, even if they try to connect it with the at the right point, unfortunately, those are lost by the current economic system or the social system of the world, which is you can say, led by the people who are capitalist, who think you not as a human, but think you as a data, as a product. And they try to get as much power out of you to feed them, to feed their system, so that you can be their slaves ultimately. So we believe that TOES school system is actually is taken into place in this big canvas of the education systems, so that we, at least the Muslims or the people who really want to connect themselves with the reality of the universe and the reality after the death of this life, the TOES is there, that we are actually trying to connect a child with its creator, so that you can understand that why you're here in this world, and you are not only performing things or doing things at your home, in your school, outside on the road, in the streets, but whatever you're doing is actually putting uh, or giving out a small amount of energy to the whole universe, and for which you are accountable in the next life. And most of the people, other than few, they believe in the life after. Why? Because this life is not sufficient enough that it can satisfy you, that okay, whatever I'm doing here is just finished here. No, it is not the answer. So when, throughout the world we are learning things, we are learning good things, but unfortunately we are missing the connection, the final connection. So you see, I have put on the few points over here, that we deep dive inside yourself, and God is right there in yourself. And set your internal locus of control. Your locus of control must not be external, it should be internal. Then connecting what with why. Whatever you're having with you, around you, on you, why it is here. Why I have it, why others don't have it, who has given me, how I can be thankful to the God, and what I don't have, how I can show the patience. These are the Islamic macro concepts, the shakkur and sabr. See, and that's how you go with the uh, you take the responsibility which is given by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, as you are not one of the creatures, you are Khalifatul Ard. So you have to not only take the responsibility of yourself, but you have to take the responsibility of this whole globe. Not only of this whole globe, but also this whole universe, which is spread by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala in front of you, so that you may not feel that it's done. So in our lifespan, nothing is done. Even we establish a connection with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, things are evolving and going on, so that we can bring the welfare uh, of the human being and rest of the species, at least on this planet Earth. And then see the world through the lens of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. It is very important. If, for example, you're having a washing machine in your house, a few other machines, you always get the manual from the manufacturing company. Why it is mandatory? They always give it to you, because they know how to. You must be told how to handle it, how to operate it, how to maintain it, how to bring the use the excellence of my machine, which is manufactured by my company. So that's why Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given us Quran, which gives you which teaches actually how to achieve your excellence and how to take care of rest of the species around you. And then you see, these are the macro concepts we are having in TOES school system. These are only 3 written over here, but we have quite many. Tawheed, everything in this whole universe is unique. I am unique in such a way that no person before me and no person after me will be having this fingerprint. Why so? So see the level of my uniqueness. Each one of us is so unique that we are made for some particular purpose, and that we can only get, or we can, we can get to know, we can learn about when we connect ourselves with the Creator. Connect faith with real life challenges. Whatever we do, believe me, it is not about faith. It's all about that you're connecting yourself with the whole world, with the whole universe. Whatever is happening around you, it's not what you're experiencing. You are doing something all the time. Whatever energy you are producing, the children are producing, they are actually happening in this whole universe. And there are so many other species who are actually facing the consequences of that particular piece of energy which is contributed by you. And finally, last but not the least, ethics, leadership, justice, responsibility. You see these four? You cannot have knowledge unless you have ethics. In Islamic philosophy, in the Islamic scholarship, out of 10 parts, 9 is ethics. 9 parts of the knowledge is ethics. Only 1 part is knowledge itself. Why? You should have that capability that you can handle that small piece of knowledge, So that's very important. Leadership is ultimately comes to the person who owns the guide from the Creator. So we Muslims are made for it, but we don't behave like that. Then justice is the need of each and every human being, not only the human being, but also the whole uh, system around us. Even it is the species, abiotic or biotic factors we have all around, they need justice. Otherwise you cannot uh, we cannot achieve the welfare of this globe. And finally, everything starts with responsibility. Let me make this clear. It's not about rights, it's all about responsibility. It's not something that you ask for something. No, it's all about you perform something. When you perform something, it's ultimately the right of someone else. So your right will come back to you if you are actually performing the responsibility. So there are a few points that I just mentioned here regarding how TOES actually connects the concept-based learning with the final dot, that is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, who is the creator, who has given the manual, and also the person how to read that manual, how to achieve that manual, and how to operate yourself and your all the systems of this world according to that manual. So that's why it's very important that we should connect ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, we can do so many good things, but the welfare of the human and biotic and abiotic factors cannot be achieved. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you're going to have a few more slides with Ms. Faiza. Keep going. Thank you very much, Ms. Faiza, and everybody else.
Thank you so much for the deep discussion and the insights you shared with us. So as we begin to wrap up our time together today, I want to step away from the theories and the framework for just a moment. I want to leave you with few questions to carry home. Questions that I often ask myself as both an educator and a parent. Take a moment to really think, what concepts in my child truly understanding, not just performing? It's so easy to settle for good grades, but do they see the meaning behind the work? Another question, where have routines replaced meaning? So in their learning or even in their worship, are we just going through the motion or is it the heart involved? How can I move my child from because I was told so to because I understand? That shift is where true character is born. And finally, what kind of thinker and believer am I nurturing? I don't want you to leave here today feeling overwhelmed by a lot of list of things to change. So there's one simple prompt that I've shared on the slide. Choose just one routine. It could be a math homework session or a family prayer, and ask your child one deeper why question, just one. See where that conversation takes you. See if you can spot that invisible thread connecting together. And before we officially conclude this session, I have one very small but very important favor to ask. Please don't leave the session without sharing your thoughts. I truly want to know what is staying with you. What is that one seed of an idea you're taking home today? So you can join right now by scanning the QR on the screen or by clicking the link just shared in the chat. Your feedback is really important because this is just the beginning. There will be many more sessions to come, and we want to build them for you. So please stay connected and let us know what would be helpful for you. Tell us the topics that you want to dive deeper into so we can design our next sessions to support your journey as a parent or as an educator. I will go to the slide and I'm excited to see what you all are sharing with us. I hope we will receive reflection from most of you. I'll share it on the screen. So I'm really waiting for all of you to share your big aha moment from the session or your takeaway or anything that you would like to share. Any one word that represents what you learned today. Building meaning. Okay. That's exciting. Changing global systems, authors of meaning. Wow. Focus on why and how. Applying some concepts to responsibility. I'm so glad that you're picking up big concepts, big meanings. Problem solving, impact of the children. Okay. Recognizing how the brain, guardians of the future, constructive by learners, think deep. You see, I used a simple tool called Mentimeter to make our thinking visible. And mashallah, all of you contributed what you were thinking, what did you understand. Similarly, When we give the right tools to our learners, to our children, where they can show their thinking, where we can actually see their thinking visible, they have a lot more to share with us. So this is the foundation we are building together. Thank you for your time, your heart, and for being a part of TOES and CFP community. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Dr. Farhana?
Jazakallah khairan, Sister and Brother Kaiser, for very important deep dive into conceptual learning and how this can transform the world and also fulfill the responsibility which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us. So, Sister Faiza, are we having any time for questions, or do you want to take any questions? Do we have any time?
Yes, definitely. I'll just share the screen again.
Yeah, maybe we can probably take questions for 5 more minutes, and then inshallah
For
we will.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Would
So
love to.
yes,
Dr.
anyone has,
Farhan,
yes,
Dr. Farhan, there's a question in the chat. Can you please read it to Ms.
yes, I will.
Faiza?
Okay, let me, I think we have a question. Okay, I think, yes. So the question is, one of the questions we have is, if you're discussing how to teach, who decides what should be taught to individuals who are inherently different from one another? And is there any universal or equational pattern which every human being is expected to go through? And if so, what is the source of that pattern? So yeah, so the basic question is, are people too different, or is there a particular pattern which is going to work for everyone?
May I see the question? Is it there in the chat?
Yeah.
Yes, in the chat. Actually, she's trying to ask that if everybody is different and have the individuality, then their pattern of learning should be different, or it has some common steps, and then they can, what is the way to teach them together if they are absolutely different individuals
Yeah,
by nature.
that's a good question, actually. And I would like to say that whatever we learned today in this session, we started from the basic theory. We developed our understanding that how the structure of knowledge is built. And if you remember, we learned about how the brain works for learning. And in that part, we learned that the brain has a specific way of working. So all of the humans, all of us, we have the same way of our brain function, right? So the brain is working in the similar way. The difference comes how we use the thinking that is generated from our brain, from the knowledge, from the information that we are gathering, and the patterns we are building. So the basic formula would be same because already these are the research approaches and the pedagogies that we have learned today. The roots of conceptual framework comes from the constructivist approach, and we have different learning theories which are researched, published, and globally known from centuries. One of it is constructivist approach, and the roots of concept base is related to that. And they believe, the constructivist, they believe that learning is experimental. It is discovery. It is not through the formulas, it is not through the fixed pattern, rather, it is discovery. All we need to do is to provide students or the children with variety of tools. Like we have learners who are more visual. We have learners who learn through hands-on, and we have learners who are more auditory. So we need to make sure as educators or as parents that we provide those specific tools that are helpful for our learners or for our children. And by following the approach that we learned today and the method, like the inductive approach, with the right tools that are useful for the learners we can achieve the outcomes that we are aiming for.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would like to add something more into it. You see, individuality is something very, very personal to each and every one of us. So, learning patterns are few, and pedagogies are also there, and they are few in numbers, not more than the humans, and learning styles are there. What actually matters at the end of the day, how a human brain process that information. So that's actually keeps the one's individuality there, and also becomes the identity of that person. I process information given to me the way my brain and heart, how it is constructed and connected with this whole universe and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with my surroundings. So I think, every child, every human being, has his own individuality all the time, all the way uh, in his life, by processing things the way he understands them. The brain and the heart will actually process the whole information that is purely yours. So nobody even copy your heart and mind. So that's why maybe the machine is there, that is same, but the processing way, the processing style, the processing phenomena, the mechanism, the formula, every the algorithm, everything is inside, that is actually very unique for every human. So it actually keeps that individuality that way. Even if you teach the same lessons to all the children, throughout the life, even then everybody will have its own lesson at the end of the day. That's how it is.
Subhanallah. So there's this is a place where uniqueness as well as the common way of learning both kind of come. I mean, they are both together. They coexist. Subhanallah, and that's the irony. That's the paradox which you always see in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's creations. The two different things which we kind of think are so different, kind of they coexist. Yeah, Subhanallah. So Jazakallah for the question. I think if any more questions we will take that, or we will, inshallah, we'll go ahead and wrap up as it is on the time. So once again, just to remind you, this is a session which was presented as a CFP learning series, and TOES is one of the projects which is working to establish the inshallah the kind of the perfect, or the education system which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with. So please check out our YouTube links at CFP, as well as the YouTube link for Think Big, which Brother Kaisar put in the chat, and we'll keep you posted with further upcoming sessions. The theme for the CFP learning series this year is empowering our future generations to face the challenges ahead. And we are very, very heavily invested in the domain of education, in this year. So Jazakallah khair everyone to spend your valuable time, and hopefully the session was very useful and you did take away important concepts of in this session. And let's go ahead and wrap up. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والأسر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.